It's the day before Thanksgiving, 1971. A seemingly ordinary afternoon, people settling into their seats on a flight from Portland to Seattle, maybe thinking about the holiday.
Just a regular flight.
Exactly. But on board Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305, there's this man, business suit, calm, collected, seems like any other passenger.
Right, unassuming.
He buys a one-way ticket, boards with a briefcase, orders a bourbon and soda, very normal. And then shortly after takeoff, he hands a note to a flight attendant.
And that's where everything changes.
Totally. What's in that note? A chilling message.
Yeah.
He has a bomb.
Well, just like that.
Just like that.
Yeah.
What follows is this demand for $200,000 cash, multiple parachutes, a refueled plane, and then this incredible mid-flight escape into a stormy, freezing night.
And then nothing. He just vanishes.
Precisely. A disappearance that has captivated people for, over 50 years now? This is the enduring story of D.B. Cooper. It's often called the only unsolved skyjacking in U.S. history. The perfect crime, some say.
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Was it perfect?
Was this the ultimate escape by a real mastermind, someone slick who just melted away? Or did Cooper, maybe just an audacious amateur, actually perish out there in that rugged, unforgiving wilderness, swallowed by the storm he jumped into?
That's the core of it. Survival or death. Mastermind or lucky, then unlucky amateur.
And that's the central haunting question we're really grappling with today. Our mission in this deep dive is to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge, the real insights from all the sources we've got, FBI files, articles, research, all the speculation, just to try and understand this enigma.
And your mission, as we journey through this, well, frankly, incredible story, is to really grasp the core facts.
Yeah.
Soak up those intriguing details, and consider all the layers of speculation that have kept this alive for decades.
Yeah, what seems plausible to you?
Exactly. Our goal here, for you, is to give you a shortcut. A way to be genuinely well-informed about one of history's most fascinating and, frustratingly unsolved mysteries. We want to cut through the noise, give you the key facts, maybe a little context you didn't have.
So as we go, think about what stands out. What detail makes you pause? Which theory starts to sound, more likely?
Keep those questions in mind.
Okay, let's dive right into the crime itself that afternoon, November 24th, 1971. To really get how this D.B. Cooper thing was even possible, we need to set the scene. 1971, aviation was different. Very different.
Oh, completely. The early 70s, that whole period, it was marked by this wave of airline hijackings. It was, unfortunately, almost common.
Yeah, it was a strange time. Social unrest, political stuff, and planes, for some reason, seemed like alarmingly easy targets.
Right, whether for political statements or, like in this case, maybe just for money.
The specific flight was Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305, a Boeing 727-100. It was just supposed to be this short, 30-minute hop from Portland, Oregon to Seattle, Washington.
Routine stuff, which probably made it the perfect cover.
Exactly. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. And here's the part that's almost hard to believe today. Airline security in 1971.
Yeah. Security is maybe generous.
Right. Compared to what we go through now, it was minimal. Barely there. Think about it. No mandatory ID checks to get on a plane.
Nope. Just buy a ticket, walk on.
No metal detectors, no real baggage screening to speak of. You could basically just stroll onto the aircraft. It seems wild now.
It was a different world. That lack of security is precisely why a hijacking like this was, relatively speaking, much easier to pull off back then.
It made Cooper's first steps almost trivial, didn't it? Just blend in.
Completely.
Now, the man himself, he bought the ticket under the name Dan Cooper, but the name everyone knows, D.B. Cooper, that was actually apparently a media mistake.
Yeah, a reporter got it wrong early on, added the DB for some reason, and it just stuck. It gave the legend.
We still don't know if Dan Cooper was his real name or just an alias. But here's a little detail I find fascinating. There's a theory it might be a nod to a French comic book character.
Oh, really? Dan Cooper, the comic book hero.
Yeah, apparently a Royal Canadian Air Force pilot in the comics. If that's true, it suggests maybe the hijacker knew the series, maybe had an interest in aviation, or was just, being clever, crafting his persona.
Interesting little tidbit.
Yeah.
as to the mystique. But what about how he looked, how he acted? That seems pretty consistent in the reports.
Yeah, the witnesses, especially the flight attendants, described him pretty clearly. Mid-40s, about 5'10" to 6 feet tall, medium build, dark hair. But it was his clothes and his whole vibe.
The business suit, right.
Exactly. Dark suit, white shirt, black tie, dark overcoat, loafers, carried a briefcase. He looked like a businessman, not frantic, not suspicious, just there.
Blending right in.
Yeah.
And his behavior matched that look. Calm, polite, totally unremarkable when he boarded in Portland.
He bought that one-way ticket to Seattle for just $20. $20.
Incredible.
Yeah.
He sat in the back, right, seat 18C or maybe 18E, accounts very slightly.
And ordered a drink, a bourbon and soda while waiting for takeoff. That quiet confidence, in hindsight, it screams planning, control.
Absolutely. That calm facade was key. It let him get set up without raising any red flags at all.
Until he decided it was time. And that quiet confidence turned into something else entirely.
The moment of truce.
Right after takeoff, around 2:50 p.m. Pacific time, he makes his move, hands that note to flight attendant Florence Scheffner.
And she, understandably, thinks it's just,
Yeah.
you know, a passenger trying to give her his number or something.
Exactly. Totally dismissed it. But Cooper was firm, calm but insistent, leaned in, apparently said something like, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb."
Chilling. That calm delivery must have been terrifying.
No doubt. That was the moment the mask slipped, the first sign this wasn't normal.
And the note itself. We don't actually have it, do we?
No, that's one of the frustrating parts. She gave it back to him after reading it, and it vanished with him. The exact words, the tone, could have told us so much.
But we know the gist from her testimony.
Yeah, she reported it clearly stated he had a bomb in his briefcase and demanded her cooperation. It wasn't a request, it was an order, delivered calmly.
Then he showed her. To prove it wasn't just words?
He did. To make sure she understood he was serious, he opened the briefcase slightly. She saw wires, a battery, and 8 red sticks that looked like dynamite.
Looked like dynamite. That's key, isn't it? Whether it was dynamite?
Exactly. Was it real or fake? That's a huge question later on. But at that moment, seeing that was enough. It established his threat, ensured the crew would comply.
It was a psychological move. The threat was the weapon, maybe more than the device itself.
Yeah.
Very calculated.
Totally. He understood that ambiguity, the not knowing for sure, was powerful. Controlled the situation through intimidation, not overt violence. Tells you something about his mindset.
So, with the threat established, what were his specific demands? It wasn't just, give me money, right?
No, incredibly precise. He wanted $200,000 in unmarked, negotiable American currency.
Which was a huge amount back then. You said, what, like $1.5 million today?
Roughly, yeah. A serious amount of money.
Yeah.
Points to a big motive, whether it was greed or just desperation.
And the parachutes.
4 parachutes, specifically 2 primary chutes and 2 reserve chutes. And very importantly, he demanded a fuel truck ready to refuel the plane immediately upon landing in Seattle.
Again, very specific, not random requests. This sounds like a plan.
Definitely. It suggests real forethought. So the airline, Northwest Orient, and the authorities, they decided pretty quickly to comply. Passenger safety was paramount.
Makes sense. Don't risk lives over money or a plane.
So they scrambled. The FBI, the airline, they gathered the cash $10,020 bills, bundled up, got the parachutes from a local skydiving school.
And the plane landed in Seattle when?
Yeah. Around 5:39 p.m., landed safely at SeaTac. Cooper, sticking to his script, let the 36 passengers off once he got the money and the chutes.
But kept the crew. That's crucial for the next part.
Absolutely. Kept the essential flight crew, pilot William Scott, co-pilot William Radizak, flight engineer Harold Anderson, and flight attendant Tina Mucklow. He needed them.
And he checked the stuff they gave him. The money, the parachutes.
Meticulously. Didn't just glance. He examined them carefully. And here's another really intriguing detail. He reportedly rejected the first set of parachutes they brought.
Rejected them. Why?
They were military-issue parachutes. He insisted on civilian models instead.
Huh. That suggests what, he knew the difference? Had a preference? Maybe experience?
It certainly suggests specific knowledge, or at least a specific reason for wanting civilian gear. Maybe easier to handle, maybe less traceable, we don't know. But it wasn't a random choice. It adds another layer to the who was this guy question.
Definite. It points away from pure amateur.
So, ransom delivered, passengers off, the stage was set for phase 2, the perilous second flight, destination, Reno, Nevada.
And again, he had very specific instructions for how they should fly.
Extremely specific. calculated. He told the crew to fly low, only 10,000 feet. That keeps the cabin unpressurized, vital for a jump.
Right, you can't jump from a pressurized cabin easily.
He wanted the speed kept way down, below 200 knots, ideally around 170 knots for the jump itself. That creates massive drag, slows the big 727 down as much as possible.
Making the exit survivable, hopefully.
He also told them, keep the landing gear down, keep the wing flaps extended 15 degrees. Again, more drag, slower speed.
And the key thing, the rear air stair.
The absolute key. Keep that rear staircase lowered and ready for him to use. The Boeing 727 was somewhat unique in having that feature, and he clearly knew how to exploit it.
He knew the plane, or at least knew that plane's capability.
And he wanted privacy. He ordered the 4 crew members, the pilots, engineer, and Tina Mucklow to stay in the cockpit, close the curtain between the cockpit and the cabin.
So no witnesses to his final preparation.
Exactly. Complete isolation in the back. This level of control, the detailed flight plan, it paints a picture of someone incredibly focused, maybe even someone who'd studied the 727 flight manual.
Or had flown one, or worked on them.
Could be. So at 7:36 p.m., the plane takes off from Seattle. Just Cooper and the 4 crew members now, heading into that dark, stormy night. A ghost flight, almost.
Carrying a hijacker, a fortune, and this huge unfolding mystery. The crew up front must have been terrified, just waiting.
Waiting for the inevitable.
And that escape.
Yeah.
Jumping out of a plane at night in a storm, that's the part that still blows my mind.
It's legendary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Happened around 8:00 p.m. as the plane was flying over southwest Washington, a really rugged, forested area. He went to the back and fully lowered that rear air stair.
The crew wouldn't have seen him, just felt the plane react, maybe.
Probably felt the drag, maybe heard the mechanism. The real signal came around 8:30 p.m. A light flickered on in the cockpit.
What did that light mean?
It indicated the air stair mechanism had been activated, that the pressure had changed. It was a signal he had jumped.
Just gone.
Yeah.
Into the night. With the money, 2 of the parachutes.
Vanished. But let's really emphasize the conditions he jumped into. This wasn't a casual skydive.
No way. It was pitch black. A severe storm was raging, heavy rain, strong winds, turbulence.
They were at 10,000 feet. The temperature outside was freezing, about -7 Celsius, 20 degrees Fahrenheit.
Brutal. Absolutely brutal. Even for a highly experienced military jumper, that's incredibly high risk.
Let alone someone in a business suit and loafers. It speaks to his, I don't know, daring, desperation, maybe just ignorance of the real danger.
Or supreme confidence. It's hard to say.
The plane flew on for another couple of hours, eventually landing safely in Reno around 10:46 p.m. The FBI swarmed it immediately.
And found nothing.
Found the rear cabin empty, 2 parachutes gone, 1 primary, 1 reserve. Cooper, the briefcase, the $200,000, all vanished.
Leaving behind just questions.
Exactly, that central mystery again. Did he pull off the perfect crime? Or did he meet his end out there in the wind and the rain and the dark? Did he become a ghost or just fertilizer for the forest?
And that's where the investigation kicks into high gear, right? Trying to answer that question.
Oh, yeah. The moment he was confirmed gone, the FBI launched NORJAC Northwest Hijacking, one of the biggest, most intensive manhunts in U.S. history.
It went on for years, decades even.
Absolutely. Generated something like 60 volumes of files, hundreds of agents involved over the years, interviewed thousands. The scale was massive.
Where did they even start looking? He could have landed anywhere in that huge area.
Based on the flight path, the timing, radar data, they narrowed down the likely jump zone to a radius of about 28 miles around a small town called Ariel, Washington.
Ariel. That name comes up a lot.
It became ground zero for the search, but the challenges were just immense. The terrain there is incredibly rugged, dense forests, mountains, rivers, lakes.
Not easy search country at the best of times.
And this was late November. Winter conditions. Cold, maybe snow, dealing with the aftermath of that storm. Trying to find a man, a parachute, a briefcase in that, almost impossible.
A needle in a vast, wild haystack.
Precisely.
So what did they actually find? He must have left something behind on the plane itself.
He did leave a few crucial clues. Investigators found 66 fingerprints, though frustratingly, none matched anything in the FBI's databases then or since.
So not a known criminal, at least not one fingerprinted before.
Seems likely. They also found a hair sample and his clip-on tie, a simple black tie, and the tie clip. Little personal items.
And didn't he smoke? Weren't there cigarette butts?
Yes. 8 cigarette butts were collected initially, which could have been a gold mine for DNA later on, but they were somehow misplaced by the FBI.
Misplaced? You're kidding. That's painful.
Infuriating for people still looking into the case today. A potentially vital clue just gone.
Wow. Okay, so fingerprints that led nowhere, some hair, a tie. What about the bomb? Did they find that?
No, the bomb was never recovered. Not on the plane, not in the search area, which immediately fueled that debate. Was it real and he took it? Or was it fake and he ditched it somewhere, maybe even on the plane, and it just wasn't found?
Its absence is almost as significant as its presence would have been.
Exactly. And despite massive ground and air searches involving thousands of personnel over the years, no body, no parachute, no briefcase, no more money, nothing.
That complete lack of physical evidence from the jump zone itself is really stark, isn't it? It leaves the door wide open for survival theories.
It does. If he perished out there, you'd expect something to turn up eventually. A bone, a scrap of parachute. But nothing definitive ever has. It makes you wonder.
Could he really have just walked away?
Or did he land somewhere so remote, so inaccessible, that nature simply reclaimed everything before it could be found? Both seem possible.
And the case went cold for a long time after that initial flurry, right?
Utterly cold. For almost a decade. The FBI had those serial numbers for the $200,000, hoping one day a bill would pop up somewhere, lead them to Cooper.
And then, something did happen. 1980.
February 1980. Almost 9 years later, this 8-year-old kid, Brian Ingram, is playing on a sandbar along the Columbia River near Vancouver, Washington.
Which is quite a ways from Ariel, the supposed jump zone, miles downstream.
About 20 miles downstream, yeah. Significant distance. And he's digging in the sand, and he finds bundles of cash.
Cooper's money.
Cooper's money. 3 packets of $20 bills, totaling $5,800. Deteriorated, clearly waterlogged, but the serial numbers matched perfectly.
Wow. After all that time. The first real physical link to Cooper since the jump.
Exactly. It was huge news, but it raised as many questions as it answered.
Like, how did it get there? 20 miles downstream.
Right. 2 main theories emerged. 1, Cooper lost some of the money during the jump itself. Maybe the bag ripped open, the money scattered in the storm, washed into a tributary, and eventually ended up in the Columbia River, carried down to that sandbar over the years.
Plausible, given the conditions. What's the other theory?
That he survived, made it to the river, and maybe buried the money there intentionally, either as a stash to come back for, or maybe just to get rid of it if he was injured or trying to make a clean getaway.
If he buried it, that implies survival, at least initially.
It does, but the deteriorated condition suggests it was in the water or buried in damp sand for a long time. And crucially, no other bills from the ransom have ever been found and verified, just that $5,800.
So, one tantalizing clue, but not a smoking gun for either survival or death, just more mystery.
Exactly. It confirmed the money was real, but didn't solve the riddle of Cooper's fate.
And then science tipped in much later, didn't it, with that diatom study?
Yeah, this was fascinating. In 2017, Tom Kay and his team looked at those very bills found by Brian Ingram. They analyzed the diatom's microscopic algae found on the money.
Like tiny biological fingerprints from the water.
Precisely. Different bodies of water have unique diatom signatures, and they change seasonally. By looking at the specific types and growth patterns of diatoms on the bills, they could deduce something remarkable.
What did they find?
They concluded the money was submerged in the Columbia River, specifically during the spring months, not year-round.
Spring, what does that tell us?
Well, it suggests the money wasn't just sitting in the river constantly since 1971. It likely entered the main river flow, or was deposited where it was found during a spring season, maybe due to snowmelt or specific river conditions.
So it implies a journey. It wasn't just dropped there right after the jump. It got there later or was moved there perhaps seasonally.
Exactly. It adds complexity to how the money traveled from presumably the jump zone near Ariel down to that sandbar near Vancouver. It hints at a specific hydrological pathway, maybe involving tributaries or seasonal flooding.
That's incredible detail from tiny algae. It doesn't solve the case, but it adds another piece to the puzzle of what happened after the jump.
It forces you to think about the environment, the river systems, how things move over time. It's a great example of modern science trying to shed light on an old mystery.
Which brings us back to the biggest question of all. Did he survive? The debate still rages.
It really does. Let's look at the pro-survival arguments first. People point to his calmness, his methodical approach. Doesn't sound like someone panicking.
Right. He seemed in control.
His specific parachute request wanting civilian chutes suggests he had some knowledge, maybe experience. He wasn't just grabbing anything.
He knew what he needed or thought he did.
And that Boeing 727 air stair, it was almost tailor-made for a bailout. Someone with aviation knowledge might have specifically chosen that plane for that reason.
It was a known vulnerability or feature. depending on your perspective.
And then there's the big one. Nobody. No parachute remnants definitively linked to him ever found, despite massive searches. If he died out there, wouldn't something have surfaced?
You'd think so. That lack of physical evidence is probably the strongest argument for him making it out somehow. He just vanished.
The perfect getaway, maybe?
Maybe. But then you have the arguments against survival, which are pretty compelling too.
Very compelling. First off, the jump conditions were just atrocious. Pitch black, raging storm, winds, turbulence, freezing cold, landing in rugged forested mountains. Survival odds seem slim for anyone.
Even a seasoned pro would struggle massively in those conditions.
And while he knew enough to ask for civilian chutes, some experts question his choice of a non-steerable reserve parachute. If he really knew his stuff, why not opt for something with more control?
Yeah, a non-steerable chute in high winds over mountains at night. You're basically a leaf in the wind. Hugely increases the risk of a bad landing, hitting trees, cliffs.
Plus his clothes, a business suit and loafers. For surviving in the wilderness after a parachute jump in freezing weather, it's almost comical if it weren't potentially tragic.
Completely impractical. You wouldn't last long dressed like that.
Yeah.
Hypothermia would set in fast.
And finally, that money find in 1980. Finding a chunk of it washed up miles away suggests he might have lost control of it during the fall or landing, if he couldn't even hang on to the money.
It points to a chaotic, possibly fatal descent or landing. Makes survival seem much less likely.
So you're left with these two opposing narratives. The cool, calculating survivor who slipped away, or the audacious amateur who bit off more than he could chew and paid the ultimate price.
The evidence, or lack thereof, supports both possibilities just enough to keep the debate alive forever, it seems.
And tied into that is the question of the bomb. Was it real?
Yeah, that's another core piece. What's the thinking there?
Well, the fact it was never recovered is huge. And Florence Schaffner's description, wires, battery, red sticks, sounds like something that could be faked relatively easily.
Like road flares made to look like dynamite.
Something like that. It strongly suggests it might have been a prop, a bluff designed purely for intimidation.
And his handling of it supports that idea, right? He wasn't aggressive with it.
Not at all. Showed it once, established the threat, then basically kept it closed. He seemed calm, composed while holding a supposed bomb. That's easier if you know it's not actually going to explode.
So the prevailing theory is probably fake bomb, used as a very effective tool of psychological control.
That seems most likely, based on the available evidence in his behavior. It points to someone clever, using fear as a weapon, rather than someone genuinely intending mass violence.
Which tells us something about his personality, maybe.
Yep.
Calculated risk-taker, not necessarily a homicidal maniac.
Yeah, more opportunist, perhaps. Okay, so if you did this, why? What was the motive?
Well, the most obvious answer is usually the right one, isn't it? Money.
$200,000. That's a lot of motive. $1.5 million in today's money. Could be simple greed, or maybe he was in serious financial trouble, desperate.
That's the classic explanation. High-stakes robbery for a big score.
But could there be more to it? The sheer drama, the audacity of it all?
You mean like for the thrill, for notoriety?
Yeah. Pulling off something so public, so unprecedented, making yourself a legend. Was the fame, the infamy part of the goal? Maybe the money was just the means to an end, or secondary to the act itself.
It's possible. Some people are driven by ego, by wanting to prove they can outsmart everyone. He certainly achieved a kind of immortality.
Then there's the context of the time. Early 70s, lots of anti-establishment feeling. Could it have been some kind of protest?
People have suggested that, yeah. Striking a blow against the system, the big airline corporation. But there's just no evidence for it, is there?
None whatsoever. He never made any political statements, didn't claim affiliation with any group. His demands were purely about money and escape.
So, while the timing fits that era of protest, his actions seem purely criminal or personal, not ideological. Motive likely boils down to money or maybe thrills.
Which still leaves us wondering about the man himself. The investigation looked at so many suspects over the years.
Over 1,000, the FBI says. An incredible number. Yet none ever definitively panned out.
Let's touch on a few of the more famous ones, the ones people still talk about. Richard Floyd McCoy Jr. seems like a prime candidate on the surface.
Definitely. Vietnam vet, helicopter pilot, skydiver. And he pulled off a very similar hijacking just months later in 1972. Same MO, ransom, parachutes, jump from the back.
The parallels are uncanny, and he apparently matched the physical description somewhat.
But the FBI ruled him out, didn't they? Said fingerprints, handwriting didn't match Cooper's. Though some people still think he was either Cooper or inspired Cooper's copycat act.
Yeah, the timing is suspicious. Then there was Kenneth Christensen.
The former Northwest Airlines guy. Paratrooper background, worked for the airline, knew the 727s. His own brother thought it was him.
Claimed he matched the description, had unexplained money after 71, knew the Seattle area well. Seems compelling.
But again, the FBI looked into him and said, insufficient evidence. Fingerprints didn't match the ones on the plane. Another dead end, officially.
More recently, Robert Rackstraw got a lot of attention.
Oh yeah, the documentary guy. Vietnam vet again, pilot, explosives expert, had a criminal past. He sounded like a movie character.
He was investigated back in the 70s, then interest resurfaced massively after that 2016 documentary painted him as the likely Cooper. He made some cryptic comments himself over the years.
But the FBI never bought it, right? No definitive proof. And he died in 2019 without ever being charged.
Right. And there are others, William J. Smith, Dwayne Weber, who confessed on his deathbed, Barbara Dayton, L.D. Cooper, mentioned by his niece. The list goes on.
So many names, so many theories, but none stuck. Over 1,000 suspects cleared. It's kind of amazing.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Does it mean Cooper was someone completely unknown, totally off the grid? Or just that the evidence they had, those partial prints, the vague descriptions, was never enough to make a positive ID?
Could be either. He might have been a complete nobody, or just incredibly careful or lucky not to leave behind anything definitive. He remains a ghost.
But his actions, this ghost's actions, they had very real consequences, didn't they? Especially for air travel.
Oh, absolutely. The D.B. Cooper hijacking fundamentally changed aviation security in the U.S. Before him, it was casual. After him, everything tightened up.
This is the part that directly affects all of us, even today. Why you should care about this old story. Your airport experience is, in part, Cooper's legacy.
It really is. Almost immediately, things changed. Mandatory passenger screenings became standard. Metal detectors started appearing everywhere at airports.
No more just walking onto the plane.
Nope. And specifically for the Boeing 727, they addressed his unique escape route. They installed the device called the Cooper vane.
The Cooper vane, what did that do?
It's basically a simple lock that prevents the rear air stair from being lowered while the plane is in flight. A direct engineering fix prompted by his jump.
Wow, a physical modification to planes named after the guy who exploited the flaw. That's quite a legacy.
It is. Concrete changes driven by one unsolved crime.
And beyond the practical changes, the story itself just exploded into pop culture, didn't it?
Oh, massively. It became this instant legend. D.B. Cooper as the ultimate folk hero, the guy who beat the system, the perfect crime. It captured the public imagination.
That idea of the clever rogue, the everyman sticking it to the man and getting away with it, it has a powerful appeal.
Definitely. And it's inspired so much media. Movies like The Pursuit of D.B. Cooper, tons of books analyzing every angle, TV shows dedicating episodes to it.
And now podcasts like Cooper Vortex, doing deep dives, keeping the discussion going.
Exactly. It's constantly being re-examined, reinterpreted. Even locally, that town near the jump site, Ariel, Washington, they have an annual D.B. Cooper Days festival.
Seriously, they celebrate the hijacking.
Sort of celebrate the mystery, embrace their connection to this enduring enigma. It shows how deeply embedded it is in local folklore, too.
Why do you think this case, above all others, holds such fascination? There are lots of unsolved crimes.
That's a great question. Maybe it's the audacity. The setting, jumping from a plane into a storm, the fact he seems so ordinary, the lack of violence towards passengers, the complete vanishing act. It has all the elements of a great mystery novel, but it's real.
Yeah, it hits all those buttons. So what's the official status now? The FBI chased him for decades.
Well, in July 2016, after 45 years, the FBI officially announced they were closing the active investigation.
Closing it, so they gave up.
Essentially, yes. They cited the lack of credible new leads and the need to focus resources on current priorities. They felt they'd exhausted all reasonable avenues after nearly half a century.
Makes sense from a resource perspective, I guess. But is it closed forever?
Not necessarily. It remains officially unsolved. The FBI has said if significant new physical evidence emerges, like the parachute, or more of the money linked definitively, they could potentially reopen the case.
So the door is slightly ajar.
A tiny crack, maybe.
Yeah.
And fueling that possibility is the fact that so much of the FBI's on-our-check case file is now publicly available.
Right, people can actually go through the raw data themselves.
Exactly. It's a treasure trove for amateur sleuths. This public access has really driven a lot of the ongoing citizen investigations, the online forums, the podcast discussions. People are still meticulously picking through those files.
These citizen efforts have really kept the flame alive, haven't they, when official channels cooled down?
Absolutely. Online communities, dedicated researchers, people like Tom Kay doing the scientific analysis. They refuse to let it fade away. It's become this collaborative, unofficial investigation powered by public fascination.
It's quite remarkable. So, looking ahead, what are the remaining big questions? And could technology finally crack it?
The core questions are still the same, really. Who was he? Did he survive? Where's the rest of the money? What was the exact journey of those found bills? They're the big unknowns.
And could new tech find answers? DNA seems like the obvious one.
DNA is the big hope. He left that tie, the tie clip. They did test the tie back in the 2000s, found some partial DNA profiles, but nothing conclusive, maybe contamination issues over the years.
But DNA tech keeps getting better, right? More sensitive.
Exponentially better.
Yeah.
It's possible that future techniques could get a clearer profile from the tie or other evidence, maybe match it to a relative through genealogical databases. That's probably the most realistic hope for an ID.
What about other tech, like finding the body or the loot?
Maybe advanced satellite imagery or ground-penetrating radar could scour those remote areas with more precision than ever before. Or even AI, sifting through all the data, the suspect files, looking for connections humans missed.
It's fascinating to speculate. Science might still have the last word on D.B. Cooper.
It might. Or the mystery might just endure. Will we ever truly know who he was and what happened? It's hard to say for sure.
And so the enduring enigma of D.B. Cooper remains exactly that, a phantom, a riddle wrapped in a mystery tucked inside a cold, dark night. No body, just a tiny bit of the money found, an identity that's still blank, and that incredible disappearance into thin air.
Mastermind or tragic amateur? The question just hangs there.
Was he a criminal genius who pulled off the perfect crime and lived happily ever after, or maybe unhappily, or was he just swallowed by the storm, his bones scattered in the wilderness?
And the beauty is the story invites you, the listener, to become part of the hunt. You can engage with this mystery yourself. Well, you can explore those public FBI files online. You can join the discussions on forums dedicated to the case. You can debate the theories. Did Cooper survive? Yes or no? Who was he, pro or amateur?
What's your gut feeling?
It's tempting to have one. We'd love to hear what you think. Share your ideas on social media, maybe in the comments where you found this deep dive. What theory makes the most sense to you?
D.B. Cooper's mystery endures because it challenges us to imagine who was he and what really happened. The truth remains out there, perhaps waiting for the next deep dive.